Number 1, what is the best book you have read so far in 2024? This is actually kind of a hard question for me this year. I haven't read anything that has completely blown me away. I don't have a book that I'm like, yeah, that's one of my new favourites out of all the books that I have read so far this year, which is 30. So fewer than most years by quite a way, which might be why. But the ones that I have enjoyed that I've read, I really liked The Wren by Anne Enright. I think the writing of that was beautiful. I really enjoyed the look at the relationship, the mother-daughter relationships. I think the mother in it was one of my favourite characters that I have read this year, which I think is a question coming up. But I enjoyed her. I really recognised her in some of my Irish family, and I enjoyed the sense of humour, the kind of wry, dark sense of humour in the book, and I thought it was well written, but I wouldn't say it blew me away at all. I also enjoyed Mongrel by Hanako Footman, which was about 3 Japanese women, 2 Japanese women and 1 Japanese British woman growing up, kind of coming of age, and a look at power and sexual abuse and misogyny, fetishization of Asian women in Western culture, and it was very moving and really, really beautifully written. And then also The Love Songs of W.E.B. Du Bois by Honoré Fannin Jeffers, which I read for my most recent Big Book Club. I will leave linked in the cards above to the live show. That was quite a good, immersive read for me, and I enjoyed reading it. But yeah, I wouldn't say any of them are new favourites, but they definitely were good and I would recommend them. I just haven't read anything that's really gripped me or blown me away as of yet. 2, the best sequel you've read so far in 2023. I'm not sure I've read any sequels. Let me check if I've finished any, because I'm currently halfway through one. No, I haven't read any sequels so far this year, but I am partway through Disorderly Nights, which is the 3rd book in the Lyman Chronicles series, which is a series set in the 16th century. The first one was set in Scotland, the second one was in France, this one's in Malta, and it is about Francis Crawford of Lymond, who is a young kind of swashbuckling, ne'er-do-well, younger son of a Scottish family during the reign of Mary Queen of Scots. There's a lot of battles between the English and the Scottish, and a lot of hijinks and ridiculous things that they get up to, and kind of swashbuckling. It's a really fun series if you are into historical fiction. It has really great detail and really immersive in the time period, but at the same time is a lot of fun and quite silly and kind of adventure books. But really, it's adventure books that are clever and interesting, and the dynamics that they look at. I'm actually quite impressed with this one because it was written in the 60s, 70s, and it is set in Malta. And it's about the Knights of Malta versus the Ottoman Empire, and it is surprisingly not Islamophobic, or not super Islamophobic anyway, as far as I've read so far. There are characters who are, the Knights of Malta, set to wipe out Islam from the world, but our main character, Francis Crawford of Lymond, is always interested in people and humanity, and the way he just talks about the war, I think it's really interesting that a book written so long ago is more nuanced than some people who are talking about similar things today. Number 3, new release you haven't read but want to, and I'm assuming this means this one that has already come out. I'm sure there are loads. The Husbands is one that I've been intrigued by, the one about this woman who suddenly in her attic keeps bringing her a new husband every day. It sounds like it's bizarre and really interesting. I've seen people talking about it, and I am intrigued. Blue Sisters by Coco Mellors. I've seen Coco Mellors, it's been around a lot, and I am intrigued by that. Napalm in the Heart is one that someone I follow on Instagram, who I will leave linked in the description, was gushing about recently, and I think that one came out in June, or maybe it's coming out in July. Either way, I'm not really sure what it's about, but they talked about it being so lyrical and heartbreaking, which I think is what I need right now. Oh, and Private Rights by Juliet Armfield is another one, which is a near future about 3 sisters who are grieving the loss of their father, and they go to his all-glass house to kind of pack things up, and secrets come out, and it's also the end of the world, and the whole world is flooded. And I loved Our Wives Under the Sea so much that I think I need to read that one as well. Number 4, most anticipated release for the second half of the year. Intermezzo, obviously, Sally Rooney. Her book is coming out in September. I have read and love Normal People, liked Beautiful World, Where Are You? And of course, all of the discourse, everyone's going to be reading it and I want to be part of it. I don't want to feel the FOMO. I think I read Beautiful World, Where Are You right after it came out, but Normal People, I was like, well after people had read it and raved about it, but well before the TV programmes. I was like not in the hype in either direction. So I feel like it will be good to be in the Sally Rooney hype this year. But I have just put up a new summer anticipated releases video, so I'll leave that linked in the cards above. I don't talk about Intermezzo there because obviously everyone already knows about it, but there are 17 books coming out in July and August and September that I do talk about. So if you want some more upcoming releases, you can go and check that one out. Number 5 is biggest disappointment. I don't know what's my biggest disappointment because it depends what I had high hopes for, I guess. Maybe Like Water for Chocolate by Laura Esquivel, which I read when I was in Mexico. I'll leave those vlogs linked in the cards above as well. I thought it would be more Gabriel Garcia Marquez, but the writing was very simplistic and I didn't love it. And I just didn't get into it. It was fine and I enjoyed it. It's like magical realism set during the Mexican Revolution about a family where the youngest daughter is destined to look after their mother until they die, but this youngest daughter falls in love with a man, and there are all sorts of like affairs and things. But the writing style, it reminded me of The Whale by well, I can't remember, which I equally didn't love. Had a similar vibe to that. It's just this really simplistic writing style that I can't get on board with. And maybe Rabbit Hole by Kate Brodie. I went in thinking it was going to be like questioning the idea of true crime, and instead it was just using true crime to advertise the book, which that's not my vibe. Number 6, biggest surprise. Possibly Mongrel by Her Narco Footman. I didn't have huge expectations going into it, and I really, really enjoyed it, as I have said already. I don't think anything else I've read has really surprised me so far this year. I've kind of maybe slightly underestimated some things, which is, slightly overestimated some things. The City of Stardust, which was the first book I read this year, was terrible, and I thought it might be quite fun. But I think apart from that, I have been quite accurately estimating what I would think about things, and I haven't had anything surprise me in a positive direction, unfortunately. You know what did surprise me is Hangman by Maya Binyam. I read it when I was reading the Women's Prize for Fiction shortlist, which is linked in the cards above. It wasn't actually the shortlist, it was my picks for what intrigued me the most. And obviously it intrigued me. It's about a man who goes back to the Francophone sub-Saharan African country where he grew up, and it's about like his life in the States a little bit, but also about returning and the people he re-meets and the condition of the country and things. And the ending of that one did surprise me. So I would say The Hangman by Maya Binyam surprised me, and it surprised me in a good way. I did. It's a really weird, like disconnected, uncomfortable in terms of the style of writing. Nothing actually that uncomfortable happens in the book, but the style of writing is very like difficult and uncomfortable to read, but I did enjoy it, and I found it really interesting. It was a really like meaty read, and so I guess that one kind of surprised me. Question number 7, favourite new author, debut or new to you? Again, like I said, I haven't had a huge amount of success with books. I will definitely read more of what Hanako Footman writes. Also, Chukwuebuka Ibe, who wrote Blessings, which is a gay coming-of-age story set in Nigeria in the 2010s about a young boy whose father discovers him kissing a boy and sends him away to this school that is known for like physical abuse of the pupils, and it's his coming of age there. But it does move beyond that, and there are also parts from the perspective of his mother and her experience of her son being different in their community, and it was very moving and beautiful and quiet, and I definitely would read more from that writer as well. And I would read more Anne Enright as well. The Wren was my first Anne Enright, and I know she's written so many different things that people have loved. She's quite a prolific writer, so I definitely think I would go into reading more Anne Enright, and she could potentially be a favourite author, because I really, really liked the style of the Wren, and so I think that her voice is something that I appreciate, and so if there was something that resonated with me a little more, or interested me a little more, or made me more was a little more thought-provoking, I think I could find that to be a favourite book. So I wouldn't say she's a new favourite author, but she's definitely an author that could potentially become a new favourite author. Number 8 is newest fictional crush. Again, every year I read that question, and I don't read romance, and I don't really think there's any... I don't read romance, and I don't really read character-driven books either, to be perfectly honest. Not characters that you admire in any way. They're just interesting characters, more characters as a way to explore ideas. I don't think I have a crush on any of them. I've read some sexy books. Wise Children was a bit sexy. The Safe Keep was pretty sexy. But I don't really have a crush on any of the people from any of them. So, yeah, I don't know. And I don't necessarily mean sexy in a, like, good way. I just mean books with a lot of sex in. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really think that any of them are my newest fictional crush. Newest favourite character would probably be, I can't remember her name, but the mum from The Wren the Wren. Like I said, she is kind of a no-nonsense, funny, stoic Irish woman with the way that she treats her daughter, the way that she interacts with her daughter. It was really interesting to me, and I found her super engaging. The way that she was just like completely not interested in other people. Like, she just didn't focus herself around pleasing other people, and I found her a really interesting character to read because of that. And again, I found her very amusing and engaging and witty and lovely, and she was like passionate about her beliefs in justice and things, and I really, really enjoyed reading from her. Number 10 is a book that made you cry. I don't think that any book has made me cry so far this year, but the closest would probably be The Love Songs of W.E.B. Du Bois. It's a story of a girl who is growing up in a black family in Georgia in the 80s and 90s, and also interspersed with stories of her like ancestors, all the way back to her Native American ancestors and the first people brought from Africa to be her ancestors, who are her ancestors as well. And it does have a lot of like harsh narratives to do with slavery, but actually the part that made me cry or brought me closest to crying was the story of our main character's sister Lydia, her oldest sister, and the way she gets involved in crack cocaine in the 1980s. And because I think it always felt like there was a possibility for her to escape from that, which was not true of a lot of the other more traumatic things to read, and the kind of hopelessness of it. I did cry. It did make me cry. There was a moment with ghosts and her that made me cry, and so yeah, it did make me cry. The next one is a book that made you happy or laugh out loud. I don't think I've read very many happy books this year. Mongrel by Hanako Footman also made me cry. So I was a liar when I said no books had made me cry, to have. But I don't think I've read any that are particularly happy books. Maybe that's something that I need to correct, because just looking through all of these books that I've read, none of them are cheerful. I guess maybe Glorious Exploits by Fadia Lenin, which is set in Syracuse when a load of Athenians are captured there after a battle, and two Syracusan men decide they want to make the Athenians put on a play by Euripides. It didn't make me happy, but I think it did make me laugh. Again, it's an Irish writer, and he uses Hiberno English to write these Syracusan characters, which kind of goes against the ideas that we have of how classical people would speak, but obviously they would have been speaking Greek, so it doesn't matter how they speak English. And I think there was a lot of humour in the early part of that book, as well as a lot of like tragedy and grossness. But yeah, I think that one maybe got me closest to laughing, that and The Wren, as I already mentioned. Number 12 is the most beautiful book you've bought so far this year. I have not bought any books so far this year. I'm barely reading, so I'm not buying books. So I haven't bought or received any beautiful books. Maybe I should. I'm going to Scotland this weekend, so maybe I will go and buy something in a Scottish bookshop. But I don't know. I haven't read anything beautiful. I haven't bought anything beautiful so far this year. What books do you need to read by the end of the year? Loads. Obviously, I am so far behind, but I need to read Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clarke. That is my big book club pick for June and July. So I need to finish that one by the end of July. I will be doing a live show with Milena from Milena Reads, probably at the end of July or the beginning of August, to do with that book. So if you want to join us, I will leave the details, information in the description. I also need to pick 2 more books for the rest of the year for the big book club. I think I will be doing the Lacuna for August and September. So I just need to find someone who wants to read the Lacuna with me for that, and so obviously I need to read that as well. And apart from that, I don't know, I've got some ideas for some videos I want to do. I was going to do a video on lesbian modernism, so you might see that at some point in the future. And there's loads of like non-fiction I want to read as well, so I might be leaning more towards a non-fiction going into the rest of the year, but nothing's really set in stone apart from my big book club books. So I just did a video about things that I love in books, and people left so many interesting things in there. So people left so many interesting recommendations in the comments, so I definitely have, that's definitely sparked my interest to read some of those as well. I'm going to try and focus on interest and pleasure and mood reading for the rest of the year, because that's, as you can tell, I don't have any favourite books, I don't have any favourite authors, I don't have any books that make me happy. I probably need to work on reading some more fun books. But that was the mid-year freakout tag, as we are now just about halfway through the year. Oh, the final question was your favourite bookish community people from this year. I did make a video fairly recently with some new to me booktubers, so I'll leave that linked in the description as well to go and check them out. Everybody does this video anyway, so I'm not going to tag anyone, but if you want to answer any of the questions in my comments, feel free to do so. My name's Roisin. If you are new here, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again very soon. Bye bye!